About 20 minutes into that flight, I started to feel ill. And I couldn't put my finger on it, but I turned to my friend. I said, something's not right. And my eyes rolled back in my head and my arms flopped down by my side and my heart stopped. And I had a very profound after death experience. And since coming back from that, I now have a pacemaker and it intervenes a half a dozen times a day to keep my heart from slowing down to a dangerous rate, especially like not running at all. And I wake up every day with a sense of both gratitude and anticipation that if I've been given the gift of life today, how can I use this breath I have as a gift to others? So it's changed the complexion of our agency, it's changed the complexion of our projects, and it's changed the outlook of my life, knowing that this could be the last interview I ever give before I leave this dimension of time.
Mr. Bill Dolan, thank you very much for joining me for this interview of this rendition of the Be and Become projects. I appreciate your time. How are you?
I am doing exceptionally well, and it's great to connect with you.
Absolutely likewise. Absolutely likewise. Now, for those of you guys watching this and who will be watching this, the Be and Become project is about cultivating compassion between everybody. Everybody. It's about understanding that some questions have been asked for a very, very long time. Now, right before I started recording, Bill actually mentioned it to me. He said, these questions, all of these questions are life questions, they're big existential questions. What is all of this about? And this is exactly what the project is about. Because certainly for me, the hardest times during my life I went through, they were 10 times harder because I thought I was going through them alone.
Mm.
Right? And then as life went on, you kind of realize, well, I felt like I was alone, but I really wasn't. I was just keeping everything for myself, to myself, and experiencing my pain alone. So that's what this project is about. Thank you, Bill, for your time.
It's my honor to be here.
I like that. You're very humble. Um, Before we get into the role of things, usually the sequence is I have something printed off here telling everybody, hi, this is Bill Dolan, this is what he does, this is what he's accomplished. But I personally don't think that anybody can introduce themselves as good and clear as themselves. So if I may ask you, sir, spend a few minutes telling us who you are, what you do.
Well, the short version is that if you were to define me, I'm a husband, father, um, and a television director, an agency owner, and an author. Um, I started my career, the predominant way people know me really is as a television director. I started my work here in the United States, working with one of the networks and their affiliates, producing literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shows over many, many years. And then I left and started my own agency, which opened the door for me to work with a lot of celebrities, world leaders, a lot of work in the entertainment space, again, from a direction standpoint, then ultimately producing some of my own content. Probably my biggest, really life changing episode that really opened my eyes to these questions that you ask was January 28th, 1999, when on a flight to Nashville, when I was going to sign the distribution deal of my life. About 20 minutes into that flight, I started to feel ill. And I couldn't put my finger on it, but I turned to my friend. I said, something's not right. And my eyes rolled back in my head and my arms flopped down by my side and my heart stopped. And I had a very profound after death experience. And since coming back from that, I now have a pacemaker and it intervenes a half a dozen times a day to keep my heart from slowing down to a dangerous rate, especially like not running at all. And I wake up every day with a sense of both gratitude and anticipation that if I've been given the gift of life today, how can I use this breath I have as a gift to others? So it's changed the complexion of our agency, it's changed the complexion of our projects, and it's changed the outlook of my life, knowing that this could be the last interview I ever give before I leave this dimension of time. Or it could be um, uh, my second to last or my third to last. It doesn't matter. I'm just honored to be here. I'm thrilled to think that what I might share today could bring value to somebody's life. And it's just great to meet another soul that is hungry to continue to explore and learn and to share that with others. That's really the essence of my story. And every day, as you ask questions, I do ask a lot of questions, but here's the good news. I no longer validate the quality of my life or the quality of who I am by what I know. Oh, it's like when we were in kindergarten or little kids. If you asked a child, would you like to be the kid that knows or like to be the kid that doesn't know? We all want to be the kid that knows. And I think that pressure, that feeling that we're validated or more valuable or more important or more esteemed if we know versus not know, has forced a lot of us to, number one, some of us seek to understand, which is great. But it's also produced a lot of people to pretend to understand. And it's also caused a lot of people, before really understanding, to try to land on something because they believe if they have an answer, they're better if they don't have an answer. And I think it's okay not to have an answer. I think it's okay to say, I'm still figuring that out. It doesn't make you any less. It doesn't make you um, insignificant. It means you're a human. And every human being, regardless of what you know, is worthy to be honored and loved and respected. And we all have a unique journey to travel to get to that place of understanding if that's what we're pursuing.
I have a feeling we're going to do this in two parts.
Okay.
Just listening. All right. So for you guys watching this, expect part two of this particular interview. All right. Um, before I jump right into this, I would like to give you a compliment. Right, you exude calmness.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah, you should see my legs. They're paddling right now.
yeah. I can. I was wondering what that is. Yeah. But it is. Yeah, you've this really chilled out, this knowing,
Mm.
which few people have. You know, I've interviewed quite a lot of people, as you know yourself as well. Like, I mean, in the line of work, and it is literally, it is above the table and underneath the table. But every now and again, you run across somebody who are equal in their states above and below the table. And this calmness, you get it, you pick it up. You know, quantum physics now at the moment, they tell us, like in Joe Dispenza's work, that we actually, our hearts give an electrical impulse that creates like this 3 meter radius around us.
Mm-hmm.
And so you feel it. You literally
Mm-hmm.
feel it. How calm or how anxious or how frustrated or how fearful somebody is. And yours, I feel it from way across the pond.
Well,
Yes.
thank you. Oh, thank you. The feeling's mutual. The feeling is
Excellent.
definitely mutual.
Let's jump in. Now, kind sir, this is a very open-ended interview, as you might have already seen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Everything here is based on your own life, experience, perception, your own knowledge. So the repertoire of everything you've accumulated so far. This is what I'm looking for.
Okay.
In your own experience, Bill, what is harder? to
Mhm.
change or to stay the same?
It's interesting knowing you were going to ask that question. One of the things that made me ask is, do we have a choice? And I think the obvious answer is we don't have a choice. Um, and so what's harder is whether we embrace it or resist change. Because I think it was that our body sheds and grows 70 billion cells a day. I mean, if that isn't change, that's like that's like staggering to realize how we're already changing, but we're changing within the context of a recipe and somewhat of a design. So it's not like I get a new cell and my nose cell fell off and a new ear cell grew. No, it's like it's continue transforming me, hopefully, to not only renew me,
Mm.
but I get to make a choice of whether it makes a better me. And so with the knowledge that trying to stay the same would be a fight, a hideous fight, I would say that that's the harder thing. And to change is the easier thing. But the harder thing about change is to be able to change in a manner that is meaningful and relevant and valuable. And saying, am I becoming the best version of me? And am I becoming the best person that can have an impact with this entity that I am, given the time that we have in this space?
Exactly. And this is, it's beautiful how you put it, because it actually is. I mean, what we are, and many people would have different opinions.
Mhm,
My own personal subjective opinion,
mhm,
I'm a sentient being from an
mhm.
accumulation of millions and millions and millions of atoms,
Yeah.
which is just a vessel for space.
Yeah.
And whatever is accumulated within this vessel, this is the gift of life. What we do and what we choose. And if we even wake up to that completely, and this is why I put this question as the very first question: what is easier, to change or to stay the same? Now, it's a double edged sword,
Mhm,
because the only constant thing there ever is change.
mhm.
It's when we resist change that we come to a point where we realize, okay, pain of staying the same is starting to outweigh the fear I might have of change. So this experience you had in the plane, right? Let's quickly bring context into the
Mhm.
question,
Yeah.
right? That was something that forced you to change lifestyle, perspective, how you view everything. How did you actually view it? I'm curious about that, right? Was it this immediate, okay, listen, this is what's going on my heart, stop, I have to change whatever, how I'm living, how my life is? Or did you experience some resistance still going, no, I want to stay the same? How was it?
Oh, I'd love to tell you that I am just a brilliant, sensitive human being that's always feeling and asking the meaning of life. Like a lot of people, I was just spinning, doing what I was doing, and I was doing what I was doing was well. And the idea of kind of chasing what I thought I was supposed to be chasing um, was working for me, except for a few things. I was paying the price with my body. I was paying the price with my relationships. I was paying the price with um, um, just the well-being of my world. And I was seduced by the illusion of this success, my title, the work I did, the people I got to work with. And when you're in that kind of cycle, it's easy to be so outside of yourself that you miss what's really going on. because we look like everybody else and we spend more time comparing ourselves and go, oh yeah, 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 yeah. Um, so I would say it was less of, while it was a profoundly spiritual experience and all those different things, I kind of call it like a 2x4 to the head. It was a wake up call. It wasn't, it wasn't one of those things like, oh, I get it. I mean, it was a little of that, but it was like, oh my gosh, I see things I've never seen before. I understand things I've never seen before. And sometimes um, you need to be pulled out of yourself to be able to look at yourself objectively. And that's what happened. It was like, oh. Now, granted, there's a difference between knowing and feeling and believing and acting on it. And a lot of the things that we do with a life are often routine in their structures and their rhythms. Sometimes those rhythms are a track that leads to fruitfulness and joy and all this sort of thing. Sometimes those are a rut that draw you into places that will tear you down and will rob you from the opportunity of living in the fulfillment you like to live, but you're stuck there. This was a way of showing me the rut, and now me making decisions about how I was going to navigate out of that. So that was really the breakthrough. And it's taken me years. Even today, it's been 20 years. And every day I still take a breath and realize that what I know and what I believe still is nothing without execution and discipline every day. So that's what I do. Some of those secret ruts still exist. Some of those secret lies that were told to me as a kid still exist. And I have to be very deliberate about living that which I know to be the better life every day. Sometimes I do it really well, sometimes I don't, but I continue to press forward and do the best I can.
I think this is the recipe, you know. And this is why we don't become 1,000 years old. And why this holiday we have is, I mean, if we're lucky, 80, 90, 100 years old. You know, so that we can learn that it's really about now. Tomorrow is now. Yesterday was now. Everything is now. And there is no tomorrow. It's now. So if you wait, you're just waiting in the now constantly, inevitably living inside a memory, either of the past or an imagination of what we think is the future. And the ultimate truth is really, I mean, your body is always in the now. Always. Always. You know, and this is what makes life so beautiful for me. That gap between, like, you know, figuring out, okay, my mind is either ahead of my body or behind my body, and then, like, you know, getting this equilibrium, this beautiful, beautiful. Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, no, I'm excited. I'm excited for the next question.
Which,
It's like a box of, when I was a little kid, there was a candy called Cracker Jacks. And I don't know, it was a big American candy. It was basically a box of corn with caramel on it,
yeah,
but there was a prize in each one. And even though the candy was so-so and the prize was kind of so-so, you
yeah.
had this anticipation. And that's what I love about your interviews. It's like, what's going to be at the bottom of this Cracker Jack box?
This is exactly how I designed the questions because of that.
Yeah.
Yes. Which brings me to the very next question. How do you understand the difference between happiness and success?
That's a great one. Uh, uh, and here's, let me start with this, that it demands definition, because everybody will say, well, happiness is this and success is this. Here's the thing that's interesting is that, because I've done a lot of work in the entertainment space, I've done a lot of shows either at, with, or around Disney. And Disneyland, particularly, I've done a lot of shows in and around that area in Southern California. And one of the things that's fascinating is if you ever go to Disneyland, there's a sign at the entrance that says, "Welcome to the happiest place on earth." It's a great sales point. I mean, doesn't everybody want to be happy? And then you go on and you get on a ride and you spin around. It can be Dumbo going up and down or a roller coaster or whatever like that. And the challenge about happiness or being happy, particularly in that context, is that while people pursue happiness, one of the risks in that setting is that when you get on that ride, you spin around and you can say you're happy. But if all you're doing is pursuing happiness, like that ride, you get off the same place you got on.
Mm.
And sometimes one of the risks of life is the pursuit of happiness, is the pursuit of one more ride, one more ride, one more ride. And and so I'm really cautious not to pursue happiness versus joy, peace, and fulfillment, because those I can take with me. Those I pray I can fill a room with them. But happiness often is an experiential type of thing in most cases. Again, depends on how you define it. Success, on the other hand, can be both shallow, because there's a lot of ways we call success. Oh, that's success, or this is success. Um, Success once was defined for me as the continued fulfillment of a worthwhile goal or dream. And if success, in fact, is the pursuit and the fulfillment of something that's worthwhile and meaningful and lasting, and really important, success is something you define. Success, if it's defined for you, often is a facade. You know, there's another old saying that I love, that one of the great challenges about climbing the ladder of success is getting to the top and realize you've been climbing the wrong ladder all along. And so that word success comes with that baggage that if it's shallow, if someone else defines it, not so good. So for me, success is definitely the more important if it involves fulfillment and peace and value, and the idea that your life is being used in a way that is helping you grow in a way that's helping other people grow. And for me, that's success. And that is why I put a high value on that.
This line you said, helping one grow as an individual, and then because you've ticked all your own boxes, you have no option but to start seeing social philanthropy around you. How can I make what is around me also better? It's a natural side effect of the work we do on ourselves.
Mhm.
Literally.
Yeah.
So many things you said there that just made my mind go ting, ting, ting. So, in my experience, anything with the words pursue in it creates an expectation. All right. Expectation, like absolutely anything, creates this fantasy results. I'm searching for this, I'm chasing that, I have an assumption of what the expectation of this particular journey is, which means I don't see anything I'm doing, because unless it happens like I think it should happen, or like I remember somebody else who I attributed a lot of value to said it should be happening, I'm a failure. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it right. There's
Yeah.
another way of doing it. So the pursuit of anything is a trap.
Mhm.
Whereas if one changes one word, right? Just rather than saying the pursuit of something, we say the experience
Mhm.
of something. Context changes completely,
Mhm.
completely. And it's like you said, it's definitions. Whose definitions do we use?
Mhm.
Right? Everything is conditioning. And especially during the last 200 years, since the Industrial Revolution's peak, I mean, it's 200 years since the Industrial Revolution, the very first Industrial Revolution peaked in 1820. That's 7 generations ago. That's not that long ago. Yet it was the very first time that now all of a sudden I don't have to be stronger or better. Now I just have to work my ass off to get more money because now I can buy better stuff. It completely changes the value system. And now we have 200 years of that. Look at where it's brought us.
Mhm.
We don't question ontology, existentialism. We don't question these things anymore because you pick up a definition from somebody who's being perceived as valuable, so they must know. But what do I think of it? What do I think of it personally? Until, of course, something happens, like what happened to you. Life takes a 2x4 and it says, "Hey, Bill, go." Knockout completely. Yeah. And then we reevaluate and we go, and we actually go. Linguistics is one of my favorite subjects because how we define
Mhm.
everything is actually what gives us the meaning and how we understand it. But
Mhm.
people are lazy,
Yeah.
and it's not our fault that we're lazy. We are we are designed to be fractions of patterns. Learn, 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 learn. So unless we come to a state where, like Anthony DeMello said, you wake up inside your body and you realize, okay, listen, I am a consciousness inside a vessel, then you might just as well not be alive because you're a machine that consumes. One of the most beautiful ways I ever came across somebody explaining the difference between happiness and success for themselves personally is somebody I am still waiting to get confirmation from for this exact same interview, Tom Shadyac. In his documentary, yes, he explains this scene where he just accumulated absolutely everything he thought would make him happy, and he went into this massive new mansion that he bought, and he stood on this huge landing, looking down at like 3 floors of just open space. And he said he never felt more empty in his whole life. Yeah. Now this expectation that was sold to him throughout his life of once you get this, you will be happy. Consumerism,
Yeah.
the biggest trap. And unfortunately it's reinforced by so many different things. Religion, industry, education today, you know, many things going on. Anything you want to add to that? Shall we go on?
Well, the whole idea of enough is it begs the question. It's not, it's natural to think enough of what, but enough really is not a reflection of volume as much as a reflection of vacuum.
Right.
And to the degree to which we are constantly trying to fill what we perceive as a vacuum is the real issue. And so if a person feels, I mean, after my death experience, one of the realizations that I had was the belief that all of us at our heart want to love and be loved. And that comes through relationship with the divine, relationship with community, relationship with ourself. But that idea to love and be loved, and one of those challenges is that one of the most prominent pursuits that we see is people trying to prove to themselves that they're worthy to be loved. And we have to say, what methodology are we going to use? What scorecard are we going to use to determine that I'm worthy to be loved? And we have a lot of things in our world that tell you, look, if you have power, you're going to be loved. If you have money, you're going to be loved. If you're sexy, you're going to be loved. If you're desirable, you'll be loved. If you have a title, you're going to be loved. And any accoutrements that we attach around it. And so I think a lot of us get sucked into the scorecard that we see among others. Celebrity. Oh, man, if I could be that, I could be loved. He's really rooted in the desire to be loved. And so we can't look at, in fact, I think we might have originally got connected through LinkedIn, through social media. And people talk about vanity metrics and things like that. And the bottom line is that there's people that judge their value based upon their following. And there's definitely value in following. I won't dismiss that. It depends on what your goals are. You feel like I'm supposed to impact 1 million lives, then numbers matter. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you are falling in the trap of believing that those 1 million followers will now prove that you're loved, you'll never have enough followers. If it's about money, you'll never have enough money. So possessions, you'll never have enough possessions. And so that recognition to who you are and to believe that you are worthy to be loved, you're worthy to be honored, you're worthy to be respected because who you are, not because of what you do or project, starts with eliminating the need for enough because you already have it. Now, anything you accumulate, whether it's power or money, whatever, is not because you're validating yourself. It's because you're now maybe having some resource that you can use for the benefit of others. And to that degree, enough is not the measure. It's about just giving, just giving. And you move kind of like here in my yard. I had to go do my lawn and I watered it. But I didn't look at my hose and go, boy, I hope there's enough water in my hose. I knew there was a source of water that used that hose that was flowing through it. And it's almost as if we are a hose to tap into the universe. And as long as we become that conduit, we'll always have more than enough because we are worthy to be loved. We are worthy to be honored. We are worthy to be respected. And our life has meaning and value. And you don't have to be rich to do that.
So I have this this saying that has caused quite a bit of controversy in previous discussions. Everybody says like, I'm worthy, you're worthy, they're worthy. I look at it a teeny bit different. I would say that nobody is worthy of anything because everybody is entitled to everything. Right? We don't have. What gives me the reason to judge another human being? What gives me the power? What just my own insufficiencies of how I view myself. That's it. That's it. So like I grew up in South Africa. I spent the first 20 years of my life in South Africa. And then I moved, I immigrated. I lived in Ireland for nearly 20 years then as well. And then I moved again. Now I'm in Europe, hopping. I'm going back to South Africa again in a few months for a little while. Then hopefully stateside, going to your side of the neck of the woods. But what all of this has taught me is that everything is relative. Right? Everything is relative. And this is my work, this sphere. I specialize in recognizing trauma patterns in individuals from all necks of the wood, right? So part of the metrics that I actually developed in order to do this is like a 1 to 4 measure of human needs. Number one, safety and security. Number two, to belong.
Mhm.
3, self-expression. Number 4, social philanthropy. So if number 1 isn't met, if we feel that I am not safe, ever safe, it is incredibly difficult to feel loved and belonged, or to even find a way to express yourself.
Mhm.
The first one has been met, and the second one, I don't belong. So what I'm going to do is everybody that I look to as an authority figure that tells me this is how you belong, I'm going to go, yes, give me those million followers,
Mhm.
because maybe then I will belong.
Mhm.
We're so intricate as these sentient flesh bags, which is what we are really in the bigger scale of things. Sometimes I don't know if I want to laugh or cry about it,
Mhm.
because we're still young as a species. This is my own personal view, you know. Yeah, this is my view. Anything else, Bill, you want to add to that one? Shall we go on to the next one?
Oh, I'll continue to ponder how you put that. The difference between worthiness and entitled. So that's almost worthy of an entire segment of discussion
Totally, yeah.
because it involves linguistics and language and what does it
Exactly.
mean to be entitled. Or but that's great, and I love the needs, which obviously were reminds me of Maslow and his work of saying, you know what, we do have a hierarchy, and if one of those, especially at the base level, and we see that there's a lot of grappling at that level
See it
that
everywhere, yeah.
causes people, yeah,
No.
everywhere.
See it
Yeah.
everywhere. Like me, I one of my projects is I help young entrepreneurs in Gambia, right, to set up business from scratch, totally.
Yeah.
And their needs,
Mhm.
right, compared to a European's needs and compared to an American's needs, oh my
Yeah.
God, it's like
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
it's not human needs apart, right? It is centuries apart. It is
Yeah.
what an American's need would have been 300 years ago,
Yeah.
is their real-time needs now.
Yeah.
Right? So the relativity of the context is so massive, and people forget. People forget because we go, me. And this is why our line of work is so important, because before we can have any valuable conversation, we need to learn how to listen,
Yeah.
not speak, listen. Very first, very first skill.
Mhm.
That thing is because, I mean, all of the media always goes, I deserve this. You deserve this. They didn't deserve that.
Mhm.
That is a judgment in itself,
Mhm.
right? It's a created right and wrong.
Mhm.
But
Well,
we're born on a, excuse my French, fucking planet. We're floating around in space.
mhm.
What makes you better than me?
Mhm.
Nothing. We are both entitled to the exact same things, like birthrights.
Well, it's interesting you refer to the media because that's my background. And one of the challenges I think we all face is you use the word deserve. And there used to be a great kind of classic campaign here um, that was promoted by one of the hamburger places. They sell hamburgers and French fries and Coca-Cola and all that. And their slogan was, "You deserve a break today."
Yeah,
And so don't have to cook. Go get a bag of food. And the thing
exactly.
that's interesting, and this is the very nature of marketing, is marketing ultimately sells to need. And if there's a need that doesn't exist, it's a need they must manufacture. For example, remember we're just talking about the idea of value systems. and what will make me more valuable, what will make me feel enough, what will make me feel successful or happy or whatever. All those different channels that we do to get to the idea of I'm loved. And basically, the marketers do a brilliant job of appealing to the idea that if you want to be loved, drive this car. If you want to be loved, eat this food. If you want to be loved, buy this house. If you want to be loved, wear these clothes. If you want to be loved, it's that idea that if you smell like this, look like this, whatever, anything that's I'm trying to sell you, I'm the secret. I could be that last ingredient that will make you feel loved and fulfilled. And it could be a spoon that goes in your kitchen. But if you got this spoon, man, you've finally got it together. And that's the secret marketing message between everything. And we receive, at least here in the States, they measured somewhere between 5,000 to 10,000 brand impressions a day. Some of those are purely awareness and re-awareness, but the vast majority of them have that implication that you are not complete without this product. So when you have that sheer volume hitting you, hitting you, hitting you, hitting you every day, and we wonder why people are struggling with their mindset about my own value or my own am I entitled, am I worthy, whatever language you want to put on it. It's hard when you've got an ocean of messages
Yeah.
pouring into you saying that you're not.
I just need to quickly express how much I'm enjoying this. Thank you. So let's quickly go into a deeper level of that, right?
Okay.
On a quantum level, we have recently been able to make tools, microscopes, right,
Mm-hmm.
to see within quantum particles. Okay, so we're atoms, protons, electrons, what's in a proton, electron, quantum particles. What we've discovered is the nucleus of that thing does not even take 2% of the total space of a quantum particle, right? So there's 98% open space, right? So within relative examples, how scientists explain it is they say, like, if the actual proton itself is a peanut, the space that the peanut is in within that quantum particle would be a football field. Just open space, right? So this is what everything is made from,
Mm-hmm.
including us, right? Empty space, continuously being bombarded. You have to be like this. You have to own this. You have to speak like that. This is where you're coming from. Behave like that. Don't forget this. Like I said, I don't know if I have to laugh or to cry. Next question. How do you understand the difference between want and need?
It's a great question, and it's one that um, I'm not sure that's going to be as deep uh, because it's something that at our agency every day to try to get to know people, we have to ask that very question. The people we're called to serve are what are their wants and what are their needs? And simply for the sake of sorting through the many ways we could answer that, we've defined wants as those things that you think about as wouldn't it be nice if someday I ought to. Gee, it would be nice if we did, if we went here. You know, they're I don't want to say whimsical, but that's the word that comes to mind. That they're soft and they're hopeful. Um, where a need we usually define as being mission critical, um, necessary for life, and deadline driven. So if something has to happen now, it just became a need. Now, granted, you have to put some value on that, but ultimately, if you say this has to happen now, it's a need. If you know someone came into the room, had a knife in their chest, and flopped to the floor, I would need to call 911
Mhm.
now. Period. You know, um, that it goes up in the hierarchy scale. It thrusts itself well above wants very quickly. Um, in terms of life threatening, is there things that you're experiencing that threatens even your life? Like if I'm underwater, I need to breathe. If I am not, if I have no food, I need to eat. If I am, well, you know the list. There's some easy ones there that say, you know what, that's life threatening. And then what I call mission critical. Because earlier we talked about success or what that could be. And the idea of at what point does my life have meaning to me and value? Do I feel like I'm doing that thing where I'm using my life as an instrument of bringing life to others? And that's definitely mission critical to me. The idea that I would go through all of my life just answering deadlines and creating a life that's simply sustaining my physical existence, but not allowing me to live those things that stir my heart, my passions, and what I feel is my mission, um, that would be tragic. So for me, living that missional type of life is definitely a need.
That it's the things that drive us, the things that just make us so you think about it and your heart starts pumping faster and you get goosebumps and you go, oh my God, I want to do that. Those things that trigger us so innately. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And we miss that. We miss that because majority of the people know it's there, but we don't get time to even think about it because we're busy consuming,
Mhm.
paying our bills, being in a machine, doing this, doing that. Sadly.
That rut we talked about
Yeah.
earlier. And I think it's a good question to ask about the difference between wants and needs, because basically our many of our needs, other than of course that immediate need, that's life sustaining or is deadline driven. I've got to call 911. Most of the most richest needs that I think we have as humans get put on the shelf in place of wants,
Yeah.
because wants are like can be satisfied in many cases almost like fast food. It can be quickly accessible, and those wouldn't it be nice ifs
Yeah.
often can be satisfied with less energy than those things that are lasting and meaningful. And it's easy to fill our life with the wouldn't be nice ifs and the wants, especially the wants that culture puts on us. It says you want this because it'll make you love yourself. You want this because it'll make you worthy. You'll want this because it'll make you meaningful. And buying into that cotton candy culture and missing the real uh, sustainable and nutrient power of living uh, a life that's making a difference in the lives of others.
Things change so fast. I'm just listening to you. And then I'm going back, going back, going back, going back. So if we put things into a higher context now, right? 100,000 years ago, right? A human being's primary want was to conserve body heat. Literally, not to freeze its ass off
Mm.
at night when it gets cold. Not a need even, Need is, of course, survival and
Yeah.
food. But a want, is to make sure that this body stays, that the heat stays inside of it. Some of the soldiers and stuff I read about the First and the Second World War, they would say a good day would be if I find a place to sleep and it doesn't rain on me.
Yeah.
How does that put things into context?
Yeah.
Today you go, oh my God, I wear a $50,000 watch.
Mm.
So much there. Listen, I'm conscious of your time. Okay. Uh,
Oh,
check what time it is.
we're good. I have an alarm that will go off at 10 minutes before at when I need to go. So we're good.
Okay.
Let's keep digging in. Yeah, I like all these softball questions you're throwing. I'm
Yeah.
joking.
Purposely designed to be very, very delicate.
Yeah, yeah, very easy. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's get to the next one. Okay. This is one of my favorites.
Mhm.
What does letting go mean for you?
I love that question. Um, letting go. Now, I have not used the term so much letting go lately, but it's a very, very close to something I talk about a lot, both in my own life and my company and thing. And that's what I call pruning. Um, because if you think, I mean, I'm not a farmer and you don't want me to be your farmer. I do not seem to have that gift, but I have learned this, that when you uh, prune back something, you recognize that every life entity requires resources and that resources can be channeled certain ways. And we make decisions about how we're going to channel those resources. And we could just let it channel, and get distributed and diluted. Or we can prune branches that maximize fruitfulness, if that indeed is what our goal is. And when I think about letting go, it's the idea that I'm actually making an action, a deliberate action to prune something from my life for which I have made a decision will dilute the energy that will produce the greatest fruitfulness in my life. And so I think because we tend to accumulate and people want to contribute and all of a sudden pile up, whether it's a task or it's an object or it's a chore or it's a title or whatever it is, that if we come from a lack mindset, like I'm always lacking and it's not enough, sometimes we fall into the belief system that if I accumulate more, that will somehow bring more value. And it could be more money, more titles, more whatever, more things to do. In fact, here, and I can't, you've had the chance to travel quite a bit. I've lived all my life in the United States. And if you were to ask anybody in the United States, most people, you'd say, how are you doing? And 9 out of 10 times, you're going to hear the word, oh, busy, busy. Oh, I've been so busy. And you really break that down. And really, when you hear somebody say, oh, it's been busy. Oh, so you're living an unpruned life. Because I'd rather have people answer productive, meaningful, life changing, transformational. But we all secretly believe that the accumulation and the lifestyle of busy buys value, buys meaning. So, long answer to say letting go, dismissing that value system, and pruning those things that do not add real value to your life or the lives of others. That's what to me letting go is. And I love letting go. I go through seasons where I realize I've bought in And I go, it's a letting go time. It's a pruning time. And does that feel good?
You know what I love about my job? Just this. I've asked this question
Mm-hmm.
numerous times. This is the first time I've gotten this answer. Very first time. These questions are designed in such a way in so many different levels. At least 1, 2, or 3 of them in every single interview. I get a brand new answer. And that was just one of them. Now, letting go in essence is, I mean, the first is, okay, letting go of what? You know, you are a few more steps evolved. You're going, okay, letting go of this. But also, how do I direct and design the growth of whatever it is I have let go? Ah, yeah, you are indeed a thinker, calculated thinker. I can hear that.
It was the 2x4.
It must have been. No, listen. We are innately born with epigenetically 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So many things inside of us, right, that make this vessel. Sometimes we need to bump our heads to wake up those genes. But they're there. We're born into this. You know, they're there. Next question. Anything you want to add to that before I go?
No, we can prune all those dismissive thoughts that I had.
Let's do it.
I'll let go of those.
Let go. Let go. Actually, now that you make that pun while you're pruning us, one of the most beautiful ways I ever heard anybody explaining that was to let go for them personally because of their life experience meant they had to learn to embrace everything first. You know?
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah. But because it is, I let go of what? And then you go, why can't I let go? And I go, how do I learn to let go? All of these steps. All of them. Next question. Now we start to get serious. No more easy questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the time. Oh, we're out of time.
Oh, no, my goodness! I hear the alarm.
The alarm will go 5 minutes, so I'll try to answer this in 5 minutes.
If not, which is highly unlikely, part 2. What does existence mean for you personally?
Again, it demands definition, existence, the idea of what does it mean to exist. And it's one of those almost like, what's the meaning of life? But what's funny is that the meaning of life demands the answer to what is life, and asks the question, why are we here? And for me, I just can tell you my personal experience. And it really had to do with when I died. Because in that encounter, now I'll give you a little preface. Know that I was raised Catholic as a child. So I grew up in a religious household. And I had some kind of idea of, is there a God? If there's a God, what is a God? Da, 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 all that stuff. And I grew up believing that if I ever encountered God, that God, the way I was raised, was going to take his finger and point at me and tell me how inadequate I was and how I had failed. Of course, with a long beard and a deep voice. You sucked. You were bad, And I realized that in many cases, certainly in mine, we superimpose our belief in the divine or the characterization of the divine based upon the authorities in our life, and particularly for me as a boy, it's the father. What did the father? And we either accept or reject that, and we either say, wow, no, there's meaning and value, or we call it BS. And in many cases, I found myself rejecting that whole idea, even though secretly I still struggled with it inside. So when I had my encounter, my experience was that I came face to face with God. And I didn't meet the bearded judge guy. I came face to face with the full embodiment of love. And it just like a laser beam went through my head. And it's like I felt like I knew things that I didn't know before. And one of the things that makes me so peaceful is the trust that I have in the divine. And for the first time, realizing that we are loved. Hold on. That the divine doesn't just know us, doesn't just like us, but is madly in love with us. Madly in love with us. And that the relationship that we have with the divine is the relationship that is offered for us to have with ourself and with others. And it's like the sun, the sun radiates massive amounts of energy. But if we were to go out in space, middle of space, we would see this big ball out there, but feel freezing cold. Because in the vacuum of space, the radiation of the sun has nothing for which to manifest itself until it gets to the earth. And now in the earth, the radiation now manifests itself in warmth and life. And it was the realization that love, we say it like it's a noun, love, it's all good. We put on a t-shirt, on a pillow, it's great. But love only has power in relationship. The same way the sun,
God,
the
that's
earth.
beautiful. Yes.
And so bringing that around, it's the recognition that my existence is an expression of the divine, that I am loved more than I can ever imagine. And I have been gifted with the capacity to love more than I can imagine, both for myself and others. And my existence has meaning and value and power when I am able to express that through relationship. And to me, that is the heart of what makes our existence so incredible. And without relationship and without love, I don't believe we have existence.
Be and become. Journey towards compassion. You
Yeah.
just put the whole thing into beautiful picture. That's exactly what this is about.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Alain, it's the old saying, if a tree falls down in the middle of the forest, then we know. Does a fish know that it's in water?
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't know. This interaction, this ability we have to do this. Oh, it's beautiful.
Mm.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So that was your alarm, I assume.
Yeah. So that's chapter one, the completion of chapter one.
This is true. Exactly. This is part one of the
Look,
interview.
and we made it through over 50%. So
We
we can schedule another time.
we did, but like I said, it's like this was the first one of the heavier questions.
Yeah.
So they only get a bit more. Exactly.
Yeah. The 2x4 shook a few answers loose. So we'll be, as the
I
say, this is my journey. This is where I'm going.
exactly. We'll set up a time, but for now, I'm going to quickly just thank you on camera. Then I'm going to take the record button off and then we'll arrange the time. I sincerely thank you both for saying yes and for actually taking time out to do this. Thank you.
It's an honor to be a part of this.